adopting the neighborhood plan. A little bit of background on the College Hill neighborhood. Next slide. So College Hill is bounded by Hillside Street to the west, Central Avenue to the north, Oliver Street to the east, and US 54 400 to the south. Douglas Avenue bisects the neighborhood in north and south. Next slide, please. College Hill neighborhood is home to just about 5,000 residents. It's located 2.5 miles east of the Arkansas River, and the Wichita Central Business District. There are just over 2,300 households with 2.31 people per household. Median income just over $83,000. 70% of residents over the age of 25 years old have a bachelor's degree, and the median age is 34 years old. Next slide, please. Give you a little bit of background on how this process got kick-started. Back in March of 23, the city released a request for proposals. In August of 23, we reached an agreement with RDG Planning and Design. And then in November 23, we had the city council appoint 16 stakeholders to serve on the steering committee. Those stakeholders are made up of residents, renters, business owners, and other stakeholders. Next slide, please. Community engagement, next slide. So we officially kicked off this neighborhood process. We had a couple steering committee meetings prior to this event, but March 25th, 2024, we had a community kickoff event at Grace Presbyterian Church. We did a significant amount of outreach on this. We sent over 3,000 postcards, so every mailing address within the College Hill neighborhood received a postcard. We had over 150 attendees that signed in, probably well over 200 in attendance in actuality. We did have a roundtable discussion and board engagement comments. So there were multiple ways for folks to engage themselves in this process at this event. Next slide, please. The board engagement comments, those were mostly kind of a come and go as you please. When you first walk in, we had boards all across the room along the walls where people could post sticky notes, address strengths and challenges regarding land use and zoning, mobility and transportation, housing, schools and education, parks, and neighborhood image, identity, and character. Next slide, please. After everybody kind of had that walk around, we settled into a little bit more of a formal event and had one individual, typically from the steering committee or a staff member, heading up each table and had a roundtable discussions where 4 questions were asked, including what makes College Hill a great place to live, work, and play? What are College Hill's biggest challenges today and in the future? What is your big idea for College Hill? And what are the top 3 or 4 priorities to address in the neighborhood? Next slide, please. We did have a follow-up online public survey, so those that attended the meeting could obviously take that survey, but for those folks that were unable to attend the community kickoff event, we released that on April 19th. That public survey was open for a couple months and it closed on June 3rd. We had 531 total responses, so a lot of great feedback. In addition to the survey, there was a pinpoint map where people could identify certain areas in College Hill that they wanted to address, or there were some issues or concerns or things that they enjoyed about the neighborhood. We got a lot of really good feedback from those responses. Next slide, please. The online public survey basically had contained a lot of general demographic information. The way that the survey was laid out, it asked a series of questions and it asked people to rank those from a scale of 5 which is strongly agree, to 1, which is strongly disagree. An example that we have on the screen here is regarding College Hill as it is today. Please rate the following statements on a scale from 1 to 5. College Hill is a walkable neighborhood. As a pedestrian, I feel safe. I feel safe bicycling in College Hill. The sidewalk network gets me to where I want to go. That's just an example. That was from the mobility section of that online public survey. There were also questions in there about infrastructure, stormwater, lighting, safety. Next slide, please. One of the interesting tidbits that we got from this was whether or not people wanted an overlay in College Hill. We went out for a request for proposals on this item back in March of 23. It was for both a College Hill neighborhood plan and an overlay. So we wanted to get feedback to see what the mood was regarding an overlay in the neighborhood. Over 90% of survey takers, as I mentioned before, 531 individuals mentioned that they would like to have some form of an overlay. We broke it down into whether people don't want an overlay at all, whether they'd like to see some sort of balance and of preservation and new development and support an overlay to guide that, or they would like an overlay to the strongest extent possible. So over 90% of survey takers wanted some form of an overlay in the neighborhood. The survey data came back, which is very interesting, based on wants and concerns. That information was broken up based on wants and concerns, whether or not you live on the north side of Douglas Avenue or the south side of Douglas Avenue. So again, very interesting to see, despite the fact that a lot of these folks live in the same neighborhood, there's certain wants, needs, and desires depending on where you live. Next slide, please. Community engagement, again, we continued to do that throughout the process. The most important aspect of this plan was the community engagement. We did have focus group meetings on June 6th of 2024, where we specifically focused on local business owners, schools and nonprofit organizations, and churches to basically get together and hear from those folks specifically to see what kind of challenges they have as either a business owner, as a church, as a school. We figured that those issues were unique enough that we wanted to single those out and make sure that those individuals' voices were heard. Next slide, please. Throughout this whole process, the steering committee was meeting. As I mentioned before, they started meeting before that community kickoff meeting and continued meeting up until this meeting here. They will continue to have meetings, but they hosted 16 steering committee meetings throughout this process. The role of a steering committee member, very important. They communicate the status of the plan process to stakeholders. So they are the conduit between what is actually happening between staff, the development of the plan, and getting that information out to folks. They assist in the creation of the plan goals, strategies, and actions. They review and they recommend policies. They help develop the criteria for setting the priorities in the plan. And they assist with public events. As I mentioned before, they have committed a lot of time to these public events. Next slide, please. We did have a public open house. Once we got those strategies and actions and a draft plan in place, we had a public open house to review that draft plan and discuss the potential overlay process. We, again, mailed over 3,000 postcards to folks in the neighborhood. Very well attended. We had over 150 attendees. We reviewed the draft neighborhood plan. Basically, it was an opportunity to present all the work that had gone into this plan and then get input regarding a protective overlay for the neighborhood. So this particular public house was split up kind of into two different sections. One was to review the draft plan, and then two, look forward to the overlay. Next slide, please. We did have a follow-up online public survey. The project team, we launched that online survey on April 17th, so right after that public open house. Survey close date, 8 total responses, so a big difference from when we first started this process. And then afterwards, we got 8 responses. So I think people were generally comfortable with what we had put out there, which is a good thing. Next slide, please. Plan recommendations. I'm going to go specifically into a few of the recommendations, run through the plan a little bit. I won't go through the full thing, but at the same time, it'll be an opportunity to discuss the layout of the plan and highlight some of the main items. Next slide, please. So the plan recommendations are broken down into 5 different chapters. There's the introduction, College Hill Today, community engagement process. I've discussed a lot of those items this morning. The plan recommendations are kind of what we're going to get into now, specifically focusing on the vision, goals, strategies, and actions. Next slide, please. So the following 6 goals provide the framework for the plan recommendations: housing, preserve and maintain College Hill's diverse housing types and historic aesthetic; mobility, safe, connected, accessible, and enjoyable walking, bicycling, transit options throughout College Hill; land use, design, and development, ensure sensitive, lasting, and pedestrian-oriented development in College Hill; neighborhood character, supporting College Hill's identity as a historic, vibrant, hip, and eclectic neighborhood that provides a high quality of life for residents and a destination for local businesses; and parks and public spaces, enhance College Hill's parks and public spaces to nurture the physical and emotional well-being of all community members; and community cohesion, foster a safe, friendly, welcoming, and inclusive environment that inspires all who live, work, and play here to engage in community and build meaningful relationships. That was the framework for the plan. Next slide, please. So breaking it down, the first item is housing. As I mentioned before, it's to preserve and maintain the diverse housing types, historic aesthetic. Each goal was broken down into a different strategy. So for example, the image on the right side of the screen is improve homes in need of repairs. It goes into further detail, further definition of what that all entails. And each strategy is broken down into individual actions. Each action is labeled. You can see that there, H1A, H1B, and so on. Basically, the action describes what the goal of that particular section is, how to accomplish that goal, and then a lead and support is identified for each of these. So each lead would be a city department. So for example, one of these would be to help coordinate grants and low-cost financing for homeowners to improve properties. So the lead on that, for example, is the College Hill Neighborhood Association. In that case, it's not a city department, but it is the neighborhood association itself. You'll see a lot of the leads on this particular item for housing under the College Hill Neighborhood Association, typically with support from the Wichita Office of Community Services, and in some cases, the Planning Department. Next slide, please. Strategy, another goal is the mobility goal. Again, provide safe, connected, accessible mobility options in the neighborhoods. The strategy is to improve the safety, ease, and convenience of walking in College Hill. So one of the things would be to map existing and future needed sidewalks to connect all of College Hill via accessible sidewalks. The lead on that would be the Public Works and Utilities Department with the support of the College Hill Neighborhood Association. So just to let you all know, we did reach out to all of these departments individually and basically got their recommendation on all of these strategies and actions before they went in the plan. So there was a lot of communication that went into this plan after the fact these goals and strategies were established. Staff was in close communication with all these department heads to make sure they were comfortable with being the lead on these projects. Next slide, please. Plan recommendations regarding mobility, Douglas Avenue, 3-lane conversion. It's currently 5 lanes. The plan calls for reducing it to 3 lanes as part of an existing Douglas Design District streetscape plan that was, I believe, established back in 2011. So the steering committee wanted to continue with the recommendation from that previous plan. Next slide, please. Here's another example. This is from Rutan to Oliver. This is the proposed 3-lane configuration. So it goes from, in this case, 4 lanes to 3 lanes with a turn lane in the center and the addition of bicycle lanes. Next slide, please. Land use design and development. Ensure sensitive, lasting, and pedestrian-oriented development in College Hill. An example strategy would be to ensure that new commercial, residential, and mixed-use development utilizes the appropriate form, scale, and materials in the surrounding College Hill environment. One of the action items, as an example, is to create guidelines that recommend our architectural form, compatible materials, and design for the neighborhood. The planning department would be the lead on that with the College Hill Neighborhood Association as support. Next slide, please. Future land use, the map on the left is existing land use. The map on the right would be future land use. The existing land use represents what's currently in the Unified Zoning Code. On the right is the future land use. There are a couple new future land use designations that are labeled on the legend of this plan. Neighborhood commercial is one. That's the areas in gray on the map on the right. But really, I want to get to the point of the map on the left being the Unified Zoning Code, the map on the right being recommendations in the plan. Those recommendations, those future land use recommendations, won't usurp or take place of any of the land use recommendations in the Unified Zoning Code. This will be used as a future land use guide for staff and the development community whenever new development is proposed in the College Hill neighborhood. Next slide, please. Neighborhood character. This was a big topic for the steering committee, making sure that College Hill's identity is supported as a historic and vibrant neighborhood. Strategy, as an example, is to maintain and restore historic brick streets. Streets obviously falling under the Public Works and Utilities Department. An example would be removing concrete repair patches in brick streets and replacing them with brick. That would be the Public Works Department as a lead on that. I do know that a question came up actually at our last meeting regarding funding for this. I should have led with this, but as a disclaimer, there is no funding identified specifically for these projects at this time. So I meant to lead with that, but I felt this was a good time to insert that as we're talking about specifically streets, CIP projects. No specific funding has been identified for these at this time. Next slide, please. Parks and public spaces. A strategy example would be to ensure that the College Hill Park and Pool provide quality recreational amenities and encourage utilization now and into the future. An example would be to explore opportunities for fundraising for park improvements through the Neighborhood Association. Parks and Recreation would be the lead on that, with the College Hill Neighborhood Association as support. Next slide, please. Community cohesion. An example strategy would be to improve the safety and security in the College Hill neighborhood. One example would be to conduct a lighting assessment for streets and parks to identify areas of deficient lighting in the neighborhood. That would fall under Public Works and Utilities with support from the police department. So those two departments would work to collaborate on that particular action. Next slide, please. Plan implementation. So we have the plan, we have the draft plan. This is how we will implement the plan. Next slide. So the plan will serve as a reference point for stakeholders, staff, and elected and appointed officials. If approved, the successful implementation will be dependent on collaboration between the neighborhood itself with the planning department, the city of Wichita at large, local businesses, community stakeholders. I've included an attachment or an image on the screen there of a staff report, kind of what that would look like as an MAPC staff report. If there was development in the College Hill neighborhood, the planner assigned to that would review that neighborhood plan, take a look at the recommendations in the plan, and then use that to form a recommendation to the full MAPC. Next slide, please. We will work on an annual implementation work plan. This is something that the Advanced Plans Division is working on now for neighborhood plans, all neighborhood plans within the city of Wichita. We will create a work plan that identifies tasks and activities that an organization plans to accomplish over the course of the year. We will include specific timelines, resources required, and performance metrics to track our progress. This will be valuable both to the city and the neighborhood. The implementation work plan, okay, you can go to the next slide, thank you. The implementation work plan, we will coordinate with city department directors. So the planning department will be responsible for reaching out to these department directors on an annual basis to track their progress on these action items and present that information in an annual implementation progress report so that stakeholders and those interested in the plan itself have an idea with where we stand on these projects. We will do an internal review of an annual work plan. As I mentioned before, maintaining that communication with those different departments will determine the success of this process. And then we will follow up with the steering committee and the neighborhood association regarding these items. Next slide, please. Approval process. Next slide, please. We are currently at the Advanced Plans Committee. As I mentioned before, this item was on the agenda on May 8th, special meeting today, going over this item again, having the opportunity to address any questions or concerns. It will go to the District Advisory Board 1 on June 9th, followed by MAPC on June 12th. That'll be the full MAPC. City Council approval, we're eyeing July for that, and the Board of County Commissioners, that's to be determined. So it'll go through the necessary steps for approval, but this is the first step here at Advanced Plans. Next slide, please. Again, just want to reiterate that the recommendation is to the full MAPC. It'll be to approve a resolution adopting the plan. And then it'll also go to the City Council as well as the Board of County Commissioners. Next slide, please. And that sums up the College Hill Neighborhood Plan presentation. I'm available for any questions. Oh, sure. I know that we have a couple folks from the neighborhood. Jack Patton from the Neighborhood Association. Mr. Patton was here last time, and then I believe
it's Jack.
Okay, Jack is here, and then Susie. Yeah, and Susie's here as well. Not a steering committee member, but Susie attended several steering committee meetings. So thank you both for being here today.
Jack, member.
Yes, Jack is a member of the steering committee.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you both.
Justin, most of the questions that I have or concerns, of course, have got to do with funding, and I know they haven't been really set up, but I know the possibility of running a CIP type funding. And where my concern comes is that I think that there needs to be a specialized either tax district set up just for the College Hill area. If you look at the infrastructure, look at specials and stuff like that. But as far as having a CIP where the entire citizens are paying the taxes to support this, I don't think that's a good way to go. I think that they need, the areas, the neighborhood associations and the, like the College Hill areas, I think they need to, Midtown and all that, they need to take care of their own area. So I don't know how that's going to really work out, but I understand that we're not at that stage yet. The plan itself, I think the plan's a great plan. Staff has put a lot of time in it. The neighborhood has put an awful lot of time and resources in it. And, I think it's a very good plan. But one of the questions I have has got to do under the mobility section. Matter of fact, in the plan itself on page 51, where it shows Douglas Avenue conversion from 4-lane to 3-lane. One of the drawings on there has a bicycle path on either side, I guess, and then the parking lane, and then you have 3 lanes for general traffic movement and stuff. And I don't know if you've ever been in Indianapolis, downtown Indianapolis. They have a lot of bicycles, a lot of walking, and all that. One thing I noticed a few years ago when I was there, that they have bike paths too, but you have your sidewalk, your curb, your bike path, then you have the parking. What that does is allow a buffer, if you will, between the parked cars and the traffic flow. Because for some reason, the vehicles that are manufactured are a little bit tougher than the skin on somebody on a bike. So, and it works out real well. I've talked to some people about it when I was there and stuff. They love it because it does. It adds a safety factor, if you will. So, and I don't know if that's something I'd love to see that throughout the city, because we got the bike paths, whether we like them or not, and it's mixed with traffic. We've also seen a large increase, I think, in pedestrian accidents and deaths. So I'm thinking one of these ways that you can help buffer that, provided you can get people to stay in the bike lanes and not everywhere else, would be looking at that as a possible scenario for future.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. I remember you and I specifically speaking about that Indianapolis example a few months ago even. So I know that this configuration that's proposed in this plan as it is now is based off of the Douglas Design Streetscape Plan. So I know that the goal was to build off of an existing plan, but I do think that buffer between parked cars, adding that, using the parked cars for a buffer would be a really good suggestion. So I can certainly note that.
Scott? That's an omen.
I would just add that, I think in the downtown area, they're looking at doing that. I think what it comes into play is just where we have parked cars and where we don't. Through significant stretches of College Hill, the width just isn't there from curb to curb in order to be able to do that quite yet. But and I don't think there's any plans to expand that. But the one section that you would have would be from Hillside and then traveling east as you go up the hill. But it's only for a matter of a few blocks before you would have to transition back people in and out. So it's a little bit tricky, but this is something they could take into account when they do the actual engineering plans, because this is the first step. This is just preliminary designs or concepts. And then if it proceeds any further, there will have to be actual engineering designs that will be done. And that'd be a good opportunity to consider whether or not to put the parked cars out as a floating lane.
Thank you.
Bob, I think at some point in time, we need a major community dialogue about priority and funding. And that, bringing up the issue that you did, when are we going to start putting money back into the old neighborhoods and stop expanding the suburbs? And I think that's a community question that has to be answered, because that's what our administration runs on.
Any other questions? John?
I don't want to get in an argument with Joe here this morning, but
I set that up.
both can happen at the same time. Revitalization, well, okay. But revitalization, they spend a whole bunch of money, and you're talking about this area or the downtown area, because that's where your heart is down that area of revitalization. There's a lot of areas in the city of Wichita which a lot of money goes into for revitalization. It's the old part of town. And whether you studied it or not, you probably should have, but it costs so much more to do something in downtown than it does to go outside this, and that it's unbelievable because of the infrastructure and the different types of infrastructure that's been there over the years, and I mean a lot of years. And if we're talking about doing it, there's some ways in which sewers can be taken care of without tearing up everybody else's, through a pumping station, through a utilization of, most sewer lines are not even used more than probably 4 hours a day, maybe 5, and sitting idle. So that could be utilized. So there's a lot of things. I would hate to say we're going to do either or. I mean, do one or the other, do them together.
Yes, Scott.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could, what I'd offer is it could be a good opportunity at some point to have a conversation about the CIP, and I believe that the CIPs are scheduled, both the city and the county, to come before you all in the next few months. When those come up, that could be a good opportunity, especially the city of Wichita one, to talk about how much money is being spent kind of on the growing the city and how much money is being spent in the established central area. I think they already do that calculation, and so it'd be an opportunity to kind of expand a little bit more into that with questions. In addition, it might be beneficial to have the appraiser come and do a presentation, not on appraisals, but rather they've got a lot of really good information about housing starts and where there's investment that's taking place in housing. So that could be another opportunity to look at it, not from just where the local government monies are going, but where's the private sector investment going.
Okay. Any additional questions? Justin, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, for the audience, the attendees on it, you will have time to make any comments or statements after we get done with our next agenda item.
I just have one more thing to say about this.
Yes, John.
And staff has heard me say this before. We did Delano 15 years ago, made a lot of mistakes. So let's hope that we can study that and learn, because this is a moving target. It's not something set in stone. 2 years from now, it may be different because of what people want, what people don't want, what's the neighborhood. And as vast an area as this is, from commercial to residential, there's houses that sell in there for $100,000 to $50,000 to over $1 million in the same area, within blocks of each other. So take consideration of the overall picture, not just that particular spotted area. And I like the idea of, I was going to add a question here that Bob, both of the speakers on the financing of these things. And I had one question: is there a possibility, because of setting up a benefit district in an area, like for example, the 200 block on South Fountain, for 2 blocks, they want to do their streets or their sidewalks, if they could set up a petition system like you do in any other type of situations, or does it have to be the all or nothing at all?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, what I'd offer is we could, maybe it would be beneficial to have a presentation from folks in Public Works to talk about how the special improvement districts work and the possibility of whether or not, for a 2-block area, to kind of delve into those questions. You'll remember the College Hill pool and how there were reinvestments that were done there. There was an improvement district set up for that did appear on people's property tax bills in College Hill. It didn't pay for 100% of the improvements, but it paid for a significant portion of it. So even there is an example. But yes, sir, I think to answer your question, there is a possibility, depending on what the improvements are, that one could be set up for as small an area as just a couple blocks even.
And the reason why I'm asking that is because of the vast area, and I'm just using single family now, of the value of the properties in that area that, I don't know, I don't want to downplay anybody's residence or anything else, but there is a vast, probably the most vast area in the city of Wichita.
Rebuttal. But we certainly have a community improvement district downtown called the SMID, which was set up by the taxing district.
And that's the key.
One thing that hasn't even been discussed is any type of estimated cost on any of these projects, whether it's the total plan or just portions of that. You're getting up in the millions and millions and millions of dollars. That funding, I don't know if there's any federal grants or anything else involved, but it's going to be tough to do that. And I understand that's why you set up your priorities and this, that, and the other. I would think that the priorities would probably have to be the infrastructure portion of it first, and then go from there. But there's probably some of the low-hanging fruit, if you will, on the plan that can be implemented and stuff, a lot quicker. And that probably should be done. On what you can do, but
You almost need reverse specials.
Well, yeah, that's just it. I mean, again, you're looking at, whether it's a tax district right there that can be set up. So every time somebody goes in there to buy something that's located within the neighborhood, the College Hill neighborhood, there's a percentage of that tax that goes to that funding. There's definitely several options out there, but I do feel that the funding sources should be within that the College Hill boundaries. So
Plans without funding sources are kind of meaningless.
yeah,
So we got to
see
have
that. Yeah, that
have a
happens.
dialogue of how this happens.
I agree with you. Fully agree with you. Well, the action that we can take right now is strictly receive and file. Again, we are going to hear the presentation again on June 12th, and hopefully we'll have a quorum where we can start that process about moving it forward.
Good practice this time.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Yeah, Justin, you're getting really good at this.
Thanks.
So,
The only thing is, Douglas doesn't run north and south, it runs east and west.
Yeah, I knew you were going to catch me on that. What I was trying to say is that it bisects the neighborhoods into north and south. Obviously, it runs east and west. But thanks for checking me on that, Mr. McKay. I appreciate it.
the next item on our agenda, number 3, is the comprehensive plan amendment regarding the city of Wichita urban growth area. Justin.
Good morning again. Justin Constantino with the Planning Department talking about a comprehensive plan amendment regarding the Wichita urban growth area. We'll get to that slide in just a moment. If not, I can grab my computer and run through it.
There you go.
All right. Next slide, please. So the recommended action today, obviously this will be a receive and file, but the recommended action is to recommend that the full MAPC approve the proposed amendment of the urban growth area as an element of the community investments plan or comprehensive plan. Next slide, please. A couple of things that we're going to discuss this morning will be the community investments plan itself, comprehensive plan, brief overview of what that document is, city council initiation, a little bit of a background on how this item got started, the comprehensive plan amendments itself. There'll be amendments to both the 2035 urban growth areas map as well as the 2035 Wichita future growth areas map. I'll highlight those sections that we are removing specifically. I will talk about the municipal services and the future development in those amended areas. So I will kind of drill down to where we are specifically focusing on this morning. Next slide, please. So the comprehensive plan was adopted by the city of Wichita and the Sedgwick County in 2015 and 2016, respectively. The document itself provides guidance for future growth. It sets the overall community investment priorities. It's a decision-making framework. It's something that's referenced by all of you, staff, on a regular basis to guide future public infrastructure investment decisions. And it does include those two maps that I mentioned before, the urban growth areas map and the future growth concept map. Next slide, please. So back on May 6th, this item was initiated by the City Council to amend the comprehensive plan. The area that we're specifically focusing on, and I will show maps momentarily, is the City of Wichita urban growth area near 55th Street South and Ridge Road. Next slide, please. This is the urban growth areas map. You're all familiar with this. This is the map as it exists today. It depicts the long-term growth patterns of the cities of Sedgwick County. It's not binding or prescriptive in nature. It serves as a reasonable indication of where the future efficient and fiscally responsible extension of public infrastructure and services and the corporate limits could occur by 2035. Next slide, please. The future growth concept map, which is the following page in the comprehensive plan, depicts the preferred 2035 future growth pattern for the city. It has future land uses. It has that established central area. That's that blue track kind of surrounding the core of Wichita. It has the Wichita city limits as well as small city limits depicted on that map. Next slide, please. So the comprehensive plan amendments that we're focusing on will be amendments to both of those maps, the urban growth areas map and the future growth concept map. That image on the right is the 2035 urban growth areas map. That image in blue that is hatched is the area that we're specifically talking about. That image is available in your packet. I will also zoom in on that in a little bit so you can kind of see exactly what we're talking about. The modifications would remove the following areas from the Wichita growth area. It's 47th Street to the north, Hoover to the east, 119th Street to the west, and kind of halfway between 55th Street and 63rd Street to the south. That's the area that we're specifically discussing about removing from the Wichita growth area. Next slide, please. Here is kind of a larger view of the area. This would be the amended urban growth areas map. Again, that hatched blue area is the area that we are specifically discussing this morning. Next slide, please. Here is the future growth concept map amended. So again, same territory, just wanted to show it on both maps. Next slide, please. Here's kind of a zoomed in area. This is the 2035 Wichita Future Growth Concept Map. So this is the map that we were just looking at, zoomed in. You can see the boundaries there, north, south, east, and west. That area would be the area that is proposed to be removed. Next slide, please. Municipal services and future development in the area. Floodplains, there is 100-year floodplain in the area. That map on the right depicts that. The subject area is highlighted there in kind of that orangish color. You can see the blue being the floodplain there. We wanted to also look at fire and police funding for police stations. We looked at the CIP. There are no funding for additional fire stations or police stations in the area. Next slide, please. Future land uses in that area. This drills down to that future land use map. There is agricultural or vacant land use in the proposed area, industrial and commercial. Next slide, please. Streets, no current funding for roadway improvements in that particular area that is being removed. For solar, at the intersection of 55th and Ridge, they're approximately half-mile west of the Murray-Gill substation is where the Murray-Gill substation is located for potential solar use. Next slide, please. Contamination, the map on the right there is the, again, subject area in orange. That area in yellow is potential groundwater contamination. This was pulled from our GIS mapping. It indicates groundwater contamination generally located near the old Vulcan Chemical, which is now OxyChem. Next slide, please. Water service, this map on the right is existing CIP map for water services. Water main extensions along MacArthur currently exist along MacArthur from 119th Street, halfway between Mays Road and Tyler Road. So those lines in yellow are CIP water service lines. Next slide, please. Airport proximity, those items in blue are the airports. As you can see, the nearest airport there is Eisenhower National Airport there to the north, but no airports within the vicinity of the proposed area. Next slide, please. Approval process, again, Advanced Plans Committee, you're up first, as always. You'd be making a recommendation to the MAPC, and then MAPC would make a recommendation to the City Council for final approval and Board of County Commissioners following that. Next slide, please. Again, the recommended action is to recommend to the full MAPC that they approve the proposed amendment of the urban growth area as an element of the comprehensive plan. Without a quorum today, it will be a receive and file item, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Joe?
Why was this included? Do
Do we have any history of why this was included to start with?
Why it was included in the urban growth area to begin with?
Yes. Be a guess.
At the time that we did the comprehensive plan, which was a while ago, I remember that there was an exercise where we did employment and we also did residential growth dots, and we placed those around. That's where the brown and tan areas, sorry, this is kind of a stream of consciousness. The boundaries, though, however, were at that time, there was a plan that was done for the water and sewer system. And so this was where they estimated that the water and sewer system would be able to expand to by the time horizon, the 2035 time horizon. So what's interesting is that since then, just like last couple of weeks, Justin's had a dialogue with folks over at Wichita Utilities to learn where the water system is going to expand in the next 10 years, and that would get us out to 2035. And we realized that it's not as far as what they had anticipated when we originally did the comprehensive plan.
You know, when it comes to moving that out of the plan, I don't have a problem with that. You know, I think it's a good thing to do that. But the problem that I personally have on this is that you have included a potential site for solar. You know, this is something I understand how it came about. It came from the city council, you know, and their wishes. But, you know, I just want to make it perfectly clear that this is the Wichita-Sedgwick County growth plan. It's not just Wichita. And I think that the county commissioners ought to have a direct impact or at least a voice in this. And they have not had that on this portion of it. And until we have that dialogue and that direction from the governors on both sides, you know, I think it's totally premature at this point to include any potential solar site at all. It might be perfect for there, but you know, I just don't think that we're at that point yet, and I don't think it should have been included on that. That's just my comments on that.
So what are the advantages of taking it out?
At this time, in terms of advantages, I think it comes down to just that that what it does is it takes away a little bit of additional influence that the city of Wichita would have in that area, and it identifies it more as a primarily unincorporated county for the long-term future. I think that the benefit is just for purposes of planning, primarily, and potentially for future land uses as well.
You know, why would you want to go in there and develop an area that is contaminated, spend those dollars, those resources, when you don't have to? You have an option to opt out, and that's what this is. I think is an option to opt out of that. So, anybody have any, John, you have any questions or anything? Concerns?
So I got concerns, but no questions.
Okay. You know, so again, we're at that position where we do not have a quorum. We cannot take any action besides receive and file on this. So that's exactly where we're at and what we're going to do on it. Oh, John.
I just changed my mind. This has been done before. We took an area, and I'm going to say back in the early to middle 60s. It's called Glen Village. It's Pawnee on the north, 31st on the south, Meridian on the west, and I think Seneca on the southwest part of town. And it was a different situation basically than this is. It was a kind of a bog area that used to be a dumping area back in the 40s and stuff. And the city took it on themselves because it was actually blocking growth in that particular area. And they did it very well. They went in, they followed all the EPA. Well, in fact, with EPA wasn't even that strong in those days. And so If it can be done, but again, it goes back like this other College Hill thing. It's got to be really studied and not just because we want to do it.
Okay, again, we're going to be rehearing this case on June 12th, 10 a.m. So if anybody wants to show back up for the general public on that, you're most welcome to attend. Justin, thank you again.
Appreciate it.
Our next agenda item is item number 4, public comment. This is where we're going to have an opportunity to hear from the public on these items that we just spoke about. You'll have 3 minutes each, and if you go to the podium, please state your name and your address for our files.
So, Jack Patton, 337 South Route 10, Wichita, Kansas. Not so much a statement as to responding to the comments that were made. The CIP issue isn't that we're requesting anything extra. It's just that when you go through and work on the street, remove and replace in like. So in the CIP plan should take in consideration the neighborhood. So you come in and you take out brick streets, save the brick, put it back. That's also probably what we're doing I know we're doing that already in Public Works when we go out and do street repairs. There was a mention about infrastructure and sewage. We already do lining of the existing sewer lines with minimal point repair in the really bad spots. So we're already doing scientific methods instead of digging everything up and starting all over. And the lining aspect that we do on that is stronger than the pipe that it goes through. The concept of just because it's old and you tear it down because you don't know how to do it, kind of strikes me as knowing the price of everything, but not the value. This is a historical area. We'd kind of like to have a little more say in what goes on in our neighborhood, like everybody else does too, in theirs. We're not asking for anything. We got a little protection and guidelines. You also mentioned having to pay extra because we want the city to actually do their job. The basketball court that you saw in there, that was bought and paid for by the neighborhood because the park department went. The pool, we do fundraisers all summer long, and we give a kickback to the city of a percentage that we raise, but all that money goes in for items in the pool. Even at the end of the year, we give the senior lifeguards small stipend scholarship. So when it comes to providing for ourselves, we don't really have a problem with it. We just want the city to come in and work with us instead of coming in and telling or surprising us with something they do, so we can work together and get something that works for the neighborhood and with the neighborhood.
Mr. Patton, your time is up. Appreciate your comments and thank you very much.
And if there's any questions among you, you might want to ask somebody that's been working on it.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Susan Miner, 303 Circle Drive. In your discussion on the College Hill Plan on May 8th, a comment was made regarding the number of current neighborhood plans. There are 15 adopted neighborhood plans and an additional 7 economic development or infrastructure focused plans. So the College Hill Plan would be the 16th neighborhood plan. If adding one more plan is a concern about overburdening the staff, I will quote the planning director. In terms of a burden, I don't think so. I think it comes down to more of a prioritization item for implementation. Another comment on May 8th was pertained to the lack of action on a specific plan. I believe it was referring to Central Northeast area. The annual review included in this plan would assure that progress would be monitored and adjustments made, so this plan could serve as a model for follow-up on other plans. Again, that's a role that staff consider a priority, not a burden. College Hill is not unique in facing the pressures from commercial development and the related parking issues. Both the comprehensive plan and Places for People plan advocate for a less car-centric and more pedestrian and bicycle-friendly design. So this plan is in conformity with your adopted official plans. Council allocated the funding, delegated planning staff to work with consultants and neighborhood stakeholders, the usual and accepted method for addressing community planning concerns. And this all is in order to avoid the time-consuming case-by-case hearings by this committee and the MAPC. This plan does not tie the hands of developers. It specifies guidelines that developers can follow to avoid unnecessary opposition by respecting what College Hill welcomes and what will keep College Hill attractive to business. It supports ways to protect housing in the midst of a housing shortage both here and nationwide. College Hill's unique mix of housing is one of its key strengths, valued by the residents and valuable to the real estate market, thus also to Wichita's economy. Protecting housing benefits all of Wichita. I urge you, when you can, to reconsider the plan in its full length and breadth and recommend adoption.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your comments. Is there any additional comments on the College Hill or the comp amendment? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for our records, please. And you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mark Burkamp. I am a resident of Sedgwick County. I live at 8431 West 47th Street South, and comments are directed towards the Wichita Urban Growth Area Amendment. I am commenting in favor of this amendment. I farm with my family. I've lived in this area my entire life. We farm several pieces that are in this proposed area as well. I've always grown up next to OxyChem, next to Evergy, former Murray Gill plants, now a substation. Gavilon Grain used to be to Bruce. So some people maybe wouldn't care to live next to that, but it's just something I've, come to appreciate. I will say this, being close to the airport, there were some folks a few years back tried to dig some ponds for moving dirt, and they were not allowed because they were not too far from the end of the runway. And if you look at a lot of the housing developments, I have some friends. I used to fish up in Cadillac Lake up near 29th and Mays with friends. When I was going to high school in the late 90s, there wasn't much up there. And look, that area has grown tremendously. It's a great retail residential area, but all these housing developments have retention ponds. I really don't think those are a viable option in our area, and that's probably part of the reason why our area still looks the same as it did 25 or 30 years ago, which is not a problem. I think there are developments that could be in the area that could be beneficial. Just to speak to some farming practices, we do spread chicken litter occasionally. That offers a unique smell. The city does dispose of a lot of their biosolids in the area. It's got a unique smell. OxyChem has a unique smell. Evonik has a unique smell. I think all these kind of factor into why maybe this area, hasn't developed into residential, and probably, quite honestly, I don't think it ever will. It is flat, so we would need retention ponds in the area. Cell signal isn't great, probably because they can't put towers close to the runway. In fact, we built a grain leg back in 2013, and we could go up to 110 feet high. We had to get a special FAA approval to go to 120 just because of the proximity. In closing, like I say, the recommended change to Wichita's urban growth area could add value to our community. I think I personally have spoken to several county commissioners over the last 2 years, and I think there is support. That's obviously conversations you'll have to have. I'm a farmer. I do love the land in this area I've lived in and worked my entire life. I also love this community and believe it has a lot to offer and a very bright future. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Burkamp. I appreciate your comments. Anybody else like to speak for the public? Seeing none, any comments, additional comments from the commission, staff? If not, again, our next meeting will be June 12th and at 10 a.m. If there's no additional comments, we will adjourn. Case closed.